What's going on, everybody? Doc here, Average Gamer Guys, back yet again. Last Day on Earth action. Something a little different today. I was doing a little bit of searching for some help with some thumbnails. And one of the things that I've stumbled across before is, and I've showed this on the channel a handful of times, is the dev blog from Kafir. Anytime a major update drops, and sometimes less so major updates, they produce these little dev blog documents that talk through the different aspects of the major updates, game changes, and other things. And it's not necessarily a deep dive, but it's a pretty good source of information. As I was scrolling today, I thought it'd be pretty interesting to kind of walk through a little bit of the history of Last Day on Earth. For those that don't know, I have played the game on and off pretty much since its release, 2017 or so. And I was around when it first got going, when Bunker Alpha was first starting to get ramped up, when the chopper was much more difficult. I've talked about that a handful of times. I'm not going to jump all the way back to there. Interestingly, this as far as the dev blog series goes, which you can see on screen, is March 31st of 2021. So there's still a couple year gap here. There's a version history on the wiki. We might cover this in a future video as I gather a little bit more information, but I wanted to just roll back to 2021 to kind of talk about and show the progression of the game. I'm actually very excited for the new kind of revamped region that we're going to be getting. We talked a little bit more about it this week with some additional information, and that'd be kind of an interesting look back to scroll through really quickly and just talk a little bit about the history. Again, if you're not familiar, the game released in 2016. At least that was the initial builds. Really, 2017 is when it got picked up a lot, and it's changed a whole lot since that point. Aspects have certainly changed. I don't know how else to say that. Aspects of the game have gotten easier. Aspects of the game have gotten harder. Recipes have changed dramatically over the course of that time. And so it's pretty interesting. Let's do a little walkthrough and talk through. And this is kind of cool for me because for a good portion of this, I, again, popped back in and out of the game on my main account over the course of this period. And I think the updates that we're getting now, the events that we're getting now, granted, they're not all winners, especially for free-to-play. That's been a major complaint as of late. But some of the major updates that we've seen that haven't been related to special or time-restrained events have usually been pretty cool. And there's been a lot of great success for how the game has progressed and all of the things that we have available to do for us now. So what's interesting, what I think is a cool look, is Port Lab is, in retrospect to the game, it's old, but it's not that old, right? March 31st of 2021 is actually the first time that the laboratory was opened up. And we're going to see here as we kind of scroll through that different things came up, different events. We used to get a lot of other kind of more seasonal type events. And I feel like there's a big focus on those events as comparative to, I would say, like consistent content. And that strategy seems to have changed over the last couple of years, which is really nice. But thinking about the laboratory not being introduced until 2021 is pretty cool. And when it first came out, it was only 2 sectors, right? You didn't even have the Bravo sector of the laboratory open, which I thought was pretty neat. So as we scroll up here, there were some additional things. Again, a lot of events that you might be familiar with if you were playing during this time. Some of these are for me, some of these are not. What's also interesting is I took a look back. They were on season 14 here back in 2021, and they didn't start seasons until I think about mid part of 2019, which is kind of crazy, right? That's such a core element. Right now we're on 70 something. It's such a core element of the game with the season pass. But seasons used to be a lot different. They used to be way different in terms of what you could get, how you progress, what you had to do, what events were a part of it. And so it's just an ever-changing and evolving perspective of it. And so I thought it was kind of interesting to take a look back. And again, we see some cool stuff. So it wasn't until a couple of months later that we got Laboratory Part 2. This opened up, as you can see here, the Bravo sector, the chilled sector. This was really big. This was in large amount and reason because the lab had been so well received by players. It was a lot of fun. It was a new challenge, something else to do. It obviously brought a ton of content with it. I can remember jumping back into the game around this time and playing Port Lab for the first handful of times. Pretty cool. Working on, getting some different stuff built up, new weapons, new place to explore, new bosses. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. It's interesting because we see some of the old commune events here and harvest events, and pretty interesting. As we scroll through 2021, one of the most fond, really genuinely fond memories I have is the October events, especially the Day of the Dead. They were really cool. I thought the locations were always really, really unique. It was usually like a decorated gravesite. You'd go around and find different things from time to time. They kind of rehashed this event a handful of times over the years, but you'd find these like skulls or different decorations. Kind of had a different trade-up system as well, which was kind of cool. I always really enjoyed those types of events. And as we see here, just kind of continues to progress. Christmas events were always pretty interesting. I always think they've done a neat job with that. I will say our current or most recent last 2 years of Winter of Despair is some of my favorites. You have your Lunar New Year here as we roll kind of into 2022. Season 20, looking back and thinking Season 20 was all the way back in March of 2022 is pretty cool. They added a dozen quests to the event calendar: zombie hunt, boss battles, rituals, and so on. So again, some of those things that we're so fond of for a lot of players, right? 3 years is a long time for a game, especially a mobile game. And so it's really kind of interesting to take a look. But thinking back, let me click on this one here. If this one had these types of events in it, right? Your arena, the old arena that I wish so badly was back. Look at these different types of rewards you can get. The system back then was different, and it's just continued to change and evolve, which is really, really cool. This has just been really neat for me to take a look back and to think about these things, right? Especially the application of these event calendars and the inclusion of those events, didn't come around. They were around for a while, a couple years, but not so much. I remember this event specifically, the extraction event. This was also always really interesting. It was kind of like a protection level event. You had these like pumps right here that were set up, and you had to defend different waves of zombies from them. You could set up like different traps, and this was such like a resource trap. You used to spend so much to set up. You could set up like barbed wire and turrets. You'd be spending gasoline and metals and all this stuff to keep the refinery up and going. And it was pretty interesting. It was a fun event. It was a fun wave-oriented zombie event, and I kind of hope we would see something like this back again. Maybe not as resource-intensive as the extraction event was. You have your ceasefire event, which gives me I did not play this one, but certainly gives me some Forloren Fair vibes, if you can see the picture here, which is pretty cool. Talk through a little bit of stories. You've got event calendar in August and new traditional event calendar. Let's take a look at this one. This is pretty interesting. Here's the commune event, and they're up season 25, 26, and 27. This is all the way back in July of 2022. The home base is ready for important changes. Time to expand. August of 2022. This is the first sneak peek or first introduction here of the settlement, which is really interesting. To think now that the settlement is nearing 3 years old is pretty crazy, actually, right? We talk about this being one of the biggest resource grinds and one of, I'll say, the kind of the hardest and most difficult continued expansions. But looking at it and thinking about it, it being almost 3 years old is pretty interesting. Now, the settlement did go through a couple of different iterations, and we'll see that over the course of like 2022. I also wanted to pop up this August 10th of 2022. They talk about future plans, right? You talk about preparing for the settlement. Again, some more sneak peeks, talking about it being permanent content, part of the global map, which is pretty interesting. So, you know, that's getting going. Obviously, there's some technical updates and different things that we come across. You then see in December 8th of 2022, you see some updates, changes, inclusions. I actually was taking a break from the game at this point in time, so I never saw initial settlement. I didn't play, but one of the main things that actually got me back into playing the game was the inclusion of the settlement post these updates, right? The ability to have the expeditions, be building these additional rooms. It's kind of interesting how they have this set up and how things are not connected here. Pretty interesting. Expeditions, one of the biggest updates they have. Those are now a couple of years old. And minivan, you can see the upgrade here. Look at this little first shot of this. This is pretty cool. They also have storylines. They introduced chapters and acts for you to work through, which is now the survivor's path, which is pretty neat. So this is some first inclusions, big updates from that. So, you know, thinking about that, that's pretty cool, but also kind of cues me into this idea that hopefully we can see some more settlement updates. I'm obviously, again, very excited for a new region and things like that, but there are components of the settlement that are not done yet that I'd be really excited for. And hopefully we can see some of that over in, you know, maybe in the future. Lunar New Year event, some big updates. Forloren Fair comes around, and this is crazy to think about. Forloren Fair is 2 years old. Now, this was the initial run of the Forloren Fair event. So from my understanding, it did not have all of the different stages. That was something that you progress through in future updates. Thinking also about the drone. Drone and transport hub is now nearing 2 years old. And May, right around the anniversary, is usually, as you'll see with some history here as we get a little bit farther, usually one of those big times for some major content update, which, again, should not surprise us. New region or revamped region coming here pretty soon. Permanent content is usually what falls around, and that's a lot of the history of the game. Used to see pretty well one major update inclusion like that. Again, you'd have a lot of events and a lot of other things to do, but it seems like we have moved away from that, as you kind of saw the history of the last couple of years from 2021 up through 2023, where now hopefully we're getting we'll continue to get other major updates multiple times, right? Hopefully, again, we see Northern region, now we're getting this new revamped region, and then hopefully maybe something at year end or near year end can be some more other permanent content. But pretty cool to see that the drone and transport hub, as well as, again, some refinement to settlement and different things. Naomi and Dash coming as part of the mercenaries to this. Transport hub being 2 years old is pretty interesting. 6th anniversary here, 2023. You got your Rottweilers. I do remember this. And certainly we're playing and making some content. Survivor's Path. Pretty interesting to see that this was August of 23. I really do think that this was one of the better, probably not talked about, but probably one of the better updates that they did to the game to help progression with those, just the additional rewards you got, kind of a smoother path of how to upgrade and where to go and what to do. And again, thinking all the way back to like 2017 time frame, there really wasn't a lot. There wasn't a lot of direction. It gave you a little bit, tips and tricks, some hints, some other things, some other some other ways to cue you in to some stuff to explore, but for the most part, you just had to look at the blueprint menu. You had to figure out what you need. You jump over to the wiki, see where you could get it, or go load up YouTube and try to find some videos where you could acquire the materials. And so I'm a big fan of Survivor's Path here, really kind of adding a story element and a progression to the game, which was certainly really, really nice. Grand opening here of the fair. So it's back, right? You've got essentially stage 3 here of the Forloren Fair coming up in September of 2023. Samhain event, which was really cool. Remember covering this on the channel. And again, the fair used to be like a big thing. It used to be, it's coming back. You're not sure if you're going to get a lot of it. Not sure when you're going to be able to get back to it. It came up every, so often. I guess this is starting to get a little bit more consistent, September to November. Winter of Despair, again, like I talked about, one of my absolute favorite events. Probably one of this Forlorn Fair and this Winter of Despair in 2023 were so free to play friendly and so fun. Just absolute W's on the events. And I know it's easy to get hung up on like recent events, but just thinking back, if you had the opportunity, if you were playing the game during these and you got some of the rewards and had some of the fun and you continue to revisit the fair like we have up now and is continuing, there is hope. There's good hope that these events are there and we see them. I remember a Song of Sun and Moon, first chance to get some of those cool weapons. This, it always seems like the Lucky Leprechaun and the Easter Bunny events are always kind of like, which is kind of what we got. Hunter's Instinct back in 2024. Gosh, I know we're going to be getting some major content, again, right around May. The anniversary usually kind of keys something off. I love this event. I thought Hunter's Instinct was absolutely fantastic. They introduced crocodiles, the boars, some special deers. You got to see some bears and some really, really fun event. You also got the sniper rifle that came back, which I was really hoping. I was really, really hoping that the sniper rifle was going to be a permanent addition. And I certainly hope we get a chance to bring it back. I think it could be a great weapon kind of filtered into the tiers of the ranged weapons that we have now. Essentially kind of between like the SVD and the VSS. I know they're a little bit different. And some of the other single shot weapons that we have that are just not great. I love this event. Thinking back on it, this was so cool. I really enjoyed this journal and tasks. You had to hunt, you'd earn these little tooths or whatever. And you could use that. That's essentially the currency that you had. I really do hope we get a chance to come back and either revisit or get a rehashed version of the Hunter's Journal. There was some like really, really neat stuff that we had. And obviously it was kind of cool that they introduced like some of the special modifications for weapons. We saw that again really back here with Winter of Despair. They continued it on with the Song of Sun and Moon, and they just added to it with the Hunter's Instinct. June of 2024, we got the changes to some of the tasks. Commune Trials getting a very much needed update. Pursuit of Luck also being introduced. The fair came back around. We saw the 2024 roadmap, which is an interesting take a look back. I remember covering this. And again, Headhunting Arena, we hit. We did not get changes to Big Hunt, so that never ended up making it, and roadmaps are sometimes like that. We got some new bosses, we got the new weapons, basically all of the northern region stuff. We did get our new resources and our dog breed. We got some quality of life changes. We got a repair station, which is really huge as part of the northern region. Improved or upgraded workstations was pretty cool, and then of course some seasonal events. So I think as we take a look at it, there's some pretty good stuff. We got the single cooldown, which was kind of interesting to get used to, not used to be how the game was. Excuse me, but I did like that event. Some other just good quality of life changes. And I will say that, as we took a look at the 2024 roadmap, the fact that they checked off the vast majority of these things is good. I think that's good when we think about the development and the health of the game. Being able to get through those tasks, introduce that content, and have something new is really, really cool. Obviously, a disappointment in the rehash of the head hunting here in September of 2024. Fair came back around. We had the Samhain event of 24. Black Friday, of course. Northern region, big update there at the end of the year. Really cool. I think outside of some changes and some adjustments, and obviously some tweaks that they did to some of the recipes, this was pretty well received. Now it feels a little bit more, now that we've had it for, quite a while, feels maybe more like, a little bit of a chore to get completed, but it is cool. It is one of those long-term grinds, something that I feel like you can go to and come back from. And once you hit some of the major things, like a couple of workbenches, get your repair workbench, get some of your other upgrades, maybe grab a few other items, is good. I like it as part of content, and I'm interested to see what else they do with it. And I also think it gave them another avenue with genomes for rewards in different events, right? And I think that's pretty cool. Something they can build on. Winter of Despair back, Trial of Spirits here, Valentine Rush, and our Leprechaun. And then again, kind of getting close to current here with the roadmap for 2025. And so far, we're clicking along decently nicely outside of these couple of things. We got the anniversary coming up, changes to delivery, which I think will be interesting. Hopefully good changes, of course, because I'm a huge fan of the current system of that. But new region with all this stuff, we've been getting some good sneak peeks. Covered that a little bit earlier this week with what we know. That brings us up to date here in March of 2025. So I expect May-ish sometime, probably, if we're lucky, to see the next major update here for Last Day on Earth. So that's kind of a unique little look back here on the history. I think if you're interested, let me know down below. I will do a little bit more deep dive and see if I can't find some other information. The dev blog here was really cool to give some visuals in terms of some of this stuff, but I'll look back, maybe do a little bit of a history lesson on the start of the game, and how things have really changed. Look back, maybe find some videos or some things and put that together if you're interested, because it's been a long time since 2017 and when the game came out, and all the stuff that has transpired from that point. So something a little bit different today. Hopefully you enjoyed a little look back. Certainly let me know your thoughts. If you've been playing the game for a few years and come back to it every periodic time, let me know what you think. I think the major content has helped to keep the player base a little bit more engaged. Me personally, right? If this was back 2021 or so, I'd probably play it for a little while and step away from it. And if you do, that's okay too. I think it's one of those games where you can wait for some of those big updates, come back with a whole bunch of fresh stuff to do, and kind of reinvigorate the joy of the grind, if you will. So very excited for this next, hopefully, big update coming up, and what the rest of 2025 has in store for us. I'm pretty excited. So if you enjoyed, consider subscribing. Thank you so very much for checking this out. Really do appreciate it. We're on the way to 10K. Help us get there. If you want to join the Discord, really lively discussion over there. Links in the description. If you want to check out some of the resources, we also have a resource channel that we're going to continue to add to. I really hope that's a good resource for lots of players. In addition to our Wasteland Survival Guide playlist, we're doing deep dives on a lot of topics, and hopefully we can share our knowledge and some stuff we know about the game, help you progress. With that, have a great rest of the day, and we'll catch you in the next one. Peace.